Hey there, Taurus. How you doing? So this is a forecast for you, whether you've got your sun in Taurus, your ascendant or rising sign in Taurus. You might find this very useful. This is a 2-week forecast taking you from the full moon in Libra right the way through to the new moon in Taurus. This is a pretty spicy 2 weeks. There's some massive patterns coming up. And what I plan to do over this next short period of 20 to 30 minutes is to run you through some of the biggest planetary patterns and how they might affect you, and also how you might choose to use those energies to your best. So if you're new to this channel, my name's Louisa Tanner Munson. Hi, welcome. Feel Good Astrology is all about, I think, creating space and possibility so that you can use the planetary energies in a way that's going to help you. If you've come back to this channel, you've been here before, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. So let's get cracking. Let's have a look at what's coming up. So the first thing I really want to bring to mind is the pattern, the flow that we're in right now. So we're in the waning moon forecast because we've got the full moon in Libra on the 13th, which is where everything is completely illuminated. So all of our patterns to date, anything that we've been manifesting for ourselves by our words, our deeds, our behaviors, we start to live in the results of our energy. And so often around the time of the full moon, it gets really busy. We get overwhelmed. We might get a bit emotional. We might realize that we've taken on way too much and that we need to cut back. Thereafter, we start to deal with some of the overwhelm, some of the too muchness of the full moon. And so we go into the waning phase. And in the first week of it, which takes us to the third quarter, we're doing it very consciously. You know, we're consciously discerning and letting go of things that no longer serve us and no longer fit our pattern, our vibration. And we're doing this quite consciously because there's still a lot of illumination. You know, things are still very easy to see. As we get to the third quarter, we start to move into the mystery of life. So, you know, the new moon is coming up. You know, the moon is appearing to get smaller and smaller and smaller and darker. And so we're coming into this period of trust and letting go, you know, where we learn to trust in ourselves and trust the process that we're going through. You know, so we are starting to intuitively let go and going to grace and acceptance and so on and so forth. We're really clearing a space. So at the time of the new moon, we've got rediscovery. We've got a moment to sow some new seeds. So that's how I see the energetics going over this 2-week period. Now, if we look at this from the perspective of a diary, which I find useful because I have a sort of internal diary in my mind, you can see that the full moon and the new moon are 2 weeks apart on a Sunday. And then the third quarter moon is in between on Monday, the 21st. Now, if you have a look here, you'll see that there's a lot going on in the first week and then not so much in the second week. So what I really notice about the first week is we've got a lot of energetic changes. For instance, we've got Mercury going into Aries, Mars going into Leo, followed by the Sun going into Taurus. We've also got Mercury making a conjunction to Neptune and Mars making a trine to Neptune. So there's a couple of Neptune things going on and 2 planets moving into fire signs. So to me, this is creating a greater sense of movement. You know, Mercury going into Aries is a lot more direct. The speech is a lot more direct. We're feeling confident, you know, we're able to articulate where we're going. You know, we're not in a kind of hazy kind of communication, which is what was going on really when Mercury was retrograde in Pisces and also going direct in Pisces. Mercury in Pisces isn't very happy. So Mercury going into Aries is definitely a step up. Mars going into Leo is also going to be a welcome change. You know, Mars has been in the sign of Cancer for months now. You know, Mars started his retrograde last year on the 6th of December, and slowly went back through Mars into the sign of Cancer. It's been in Cancer for ages, and Cancer is a great sign, but Mars is not happy there. You know, Mars is very wet and moody in the sign of Cancer. It's very difficult for him to take action on his emotions. He feels a little dampened. And so Mars going into the sign of Leo is going to really zhuzh things up. We're going to get playful, a lot more playful. We're really going to feel the sense to move, and to feel more empowered in our own vitality. So I see this as real moving energy. And talking about moving energy, I also want to just pay a little bit of appreciation to you, because, in fact, to everyone actually, because since November of last year, we've had either Mercury, Mars, or Venus in a retrograde position. Sometimes one of them, a couple of times we've had both of them or two of them. Apart from a tiny little gap between the 23rd of February and the 2nd of March. So just not many days, about 6 days or so. But apart from that, we've had a personal planet going retrograde. Now, this is really intense. This shows a lot of intense changes that we're going through with all these personal retrogrades stacked on each other. And what's significant about the 13th of April is that's the day when Venus goes direct. So at that point, we've got Mars, Mercury, and Venus going direct, and moving forwards. It feels like whatever we've been deliberating over since November and December, it really feels like we're ready to move on. We've done a lot of navel gazing. We've really, really looked deep into our souls. We've slowed down. We felt held back. We're starting to move forwards. And so as Mercury and Mars go into the fire signs, that is really, really helpful. I really, really love that. Now, the next pattern that I think is also worth paying some attention to is how Saturn is in a conjunction to the North Node, and then later on this week, Venus makes a conjunction to the North Node. To me, Venus, Saturn, and the North Node are all working together throughout this whole time period. But, Saturn is a regulator and helps us create form, guidance, rules, regulations, steps. He's helping us get things itemized, measured, completed. If you've got something that really needs to be completed and you need to feel good about it, this is a really, really good week to get things done. I can think of several things that I've got outstanding, and this is definitely the week that I'm going to start getting things moving, because you're getting things moving in alignment with your North Node or with the North Node. So it feels like things are very purposeful and things are happening at just the right time. It's a very, very useful energy. Now, the Mercury conjunct Neptune and the Mars trine Neptune, these are the first Mercury and Mars connections with Neptune since it's changed signs. To me, this is an indication that our minds are wide open and creative and spiritual and idealistic, really open to new ideas and ready to take action and communicate about them. So again, it's really sort of exciting stuff. Now, as we go into the second part of this waning moon phase, we're coming into a more of a serious pattern. Now, this pattern is actually with us the whole 2 weeks, but we've got an approaching, it's the final Mars and Pluto opposition. So this Mars and Pluto opposition, I'll show you what it looks like in the charts in a minute, but it's an ongoing opposition that we've had since the end of last year, really from the end of October. And then we got our first opposition on the 3rd of November, then the 3rd of January 2025, and then this final one will be on April the 27th. But Mars and Pluto in opposition is a really, really strong energy. And what's actually happening is at the time of the full moon, the sun and the moon in opposition are in a square to Mars and Pluto. At the time of the sun square Mars, at the time of the third quarter, the moon is in a conjunction with Pluto. And then at the new moon in Taurus, you've got the sun and the moon working in a T-square to Pluto and Mars. So Pluto and Mars really do need to be factored into this 2-week period. What I see is happening is we're releasing a really strong level of deep frustration where it feels like we're part of us are trying to survive, and there's another part of us that doesn't want to be controlled, that wants to be free and wants to take action. And it's like, where do we put our energy? So it's really, really frustrating. But anyway, I'll show you on the charts in a second. But just before I do, I just want to thank everybody that supports this channel. however you support it, I really, really appreciate you. You are really paying it forward. So thank you so much. Some of you've bought me coffee. Some of you set up direct debits. It's really, really kind of you. I've also got my Feel Good Astrology membership, which some of you are members of. So thank you so much. You really make this easy for me. And I really love you. Anyway, let's have a look at these charts. So I've designed 3 charts to represent this whole period from your Taurus perspective. The full moon in Libra on the 13th. Then at the third quarter, we've got you'll see by that point, the moon has reached Pluto. And then the final chart is the time of the new moon in Taurus. And you can see, obviously, Taurus new moon, this is your sign. This is a really, really important new moon. It's the most important new moon from your perspective. It is a reboot. This is a really great new start. So, as we're looking ahead at this new moon, what I suggest is, how can you clear away the frustrations and manage the frustrations caused by Pluto and Mars and their emerging opposition? How can you make the most of these amazing sextiles from Pluto and Uranus to this really potent series of planets? And so I've mentioned Venus and Saturn and the North Node already, but also Neptune and Mercury. They're all working together. How can you also make the most of this new activity, this energy of Mars wanting to take action? So there's a lot of things that can help you move things forwards. And it all seems to be resting on understanding what Pluto in opposition to Mars is meaning. So the full moon in Libra is really happening in this part of your chart, which is about what you're manifesting in life. Like, how are you managing your life? How are you managing your life in such a way that you are organized, things are going smoothly, your health is going well, your money's good, your work is good, everything is just working beautifully, effortlessly. So this full moon is likely to show you where you don't have ease. It's likely to show you where maybe there's a ghost in the machine, where there's a little glitch, where things aren't very smooth. And really, it's showing you what you need to work on, what you need to focus on. Now, interestingly, at that time, and this is the ouchy bit, the sun is in a conjunction with Chiron at the time of this full moon, and the sun and Chiron in their conjunction together is in your 12th house. This is really showing an insecurity about your identity, a hidden insecurity about your identity that is really exposed by this full moon. Now, if we also put in the position of Pluto and Mars, so Pluto's up here, this is the most stable of all the planets out of these ones. This is the one that's moving the least. Pluto's up here in your 10th house. And when Pluto comes up at this part of your chart, he's really trying to control how you are seen in the world. He's really trying to show you that you should have more power. You should be a lot more influential. How can you be seen as a powerful person in the world? Now, Pluto not only shows where we're trying to control things, but also where we've got fear. So at some level, there's a fear that you don't have enough power. There's a fear that maybe you're not important enough. And so Pluto is coming up there to say, right, we need to do this. We need to do this. And it brings up this sort of grandiose, sort of megalomaniac kind of energy within you. Now, we've all got that somewhere. But it's a tough one, and it's in a really, really important place. And so something is really triggering this, and it's also working with this insecurity. So I think at the time of the full moon, there's something that comes up that maybe you feel insecure about in relationship to power and what power means to you, that also leaves you wide open in your administration, in the way you run your life. So maybe there's something that you've got going on, some kind of self-sabotage that is stopping you in your tracks from being organized. What is it that stops you from having a life that is calm and smooth and serene and easy? Is it that you need distraction? Is it so that you can't achieve your highest awards or your highest honors? what is it that you're doing? Like self-sabotages really turn up in this part of your chart. And so seeing Chiron and the sun together at the time of this full moon is big. There's a sort of like the feeling of self-sabotage. How can I stop myself in my tracks so that I don't have to have these power plays going on? Now, the other thing going on with this is we've got Mars. Now, currently, at the start of this, Mars is very much in the third house, really showing that he wants to take control, be a little bit more active socially and around the local neighborhood, really wants to feel like he's important, really wants to feel comfortable, like he belongs. And then on the 18th, he's moving into the fourth house. He's coming into this part really to show that it's time to get more active at home, do more at home, make yourself safer at home, create a boundary at home, maybe put up a defense at home. But you're coming up to quite a busy period. And so again, you might ask yourself, what is playing out right now? What is playing out around the time of this full moon, whereby I've got some kind of self-sabotage, which might stop me from becoming really successful, or might stop me from making power go to my head, but is also stopping me from really taking over how I run things at home, and is stopping me in my tracks from making change at home. So there's something going on. Now, I really think that Venus and Saturn and the North Node, also Mercury and Neptune, can really help you. In particular, Venus, Saturn and the North Node, they're in this 11th house part of your chart, which is about friendships and networks. And they're quite powerful. These are really powerful places. They really show you where there's help, where there's support, where there's not only support, but support beyond the support, where maybe people would help lift you up, help share your message, help you to regulate yourself, help you create your dreams. This is a place of co-creation. So, one of the ways that you can do more and achieve more and be more successful, and also show how different you are. I haven't actually mentioned Uranus yet, but other people can really, really help you. And what's really showing at the moment is you haven't fully used these resources. In fact, as we're coming into May, and like between now and the end of May, both Venus and Saturn will have moved out of this area. And then it almost feels like you've stopped your opportunities to really collaborate on something big. So I wonder what collaborations might come up in this month ahead that are going to really help you achieve more and feel more and do more and feel like you're belonging more. So that even if you are self-sabotaging, you're not completely ruining your efforts. So there's a lot of things going on. As we are coming into the midpoint, just after the first week, the sun goes into your own house, into your own sign, into the first house. And it's a time when you're starting to feel a lot more like yourself. It's a natural time of the year when you start to feel like, it's my time. I know this. I'm feeling really natural. I'm feeling really comfortable. And you've got your voice. You're feeling really confident. So I really like this. But again, this T-square is still going on between feeling important and the need to feel important, the need to protect yourself out in the big world versus, and by this time Mars has moved on, versus being strong at home. So it feels like there's a bit of a battle between home and away. And that is kind of interesting. And then as we are coming into the end, where we're coming up to the time of the new moon in Taurus, again, there's still this internal battle going on between home and away. Now, one thing that does strike me, and I have spoken about this in the actual relationship and connections forecast, and that is that both Pluto and Mars are the rulers of Scorpio, and so they they are ruling the 7th house, which is all about relationships. So whatever is going on between home and away is also playing out in terms of your relationship. So if things have felt tight at home, it's because of, I think, an insecurity as to where you need to be fierce or where you need to take action. Is it at home? Is it out there in your career? Where is the threat and where is the fear? And where do you actually have any control? You might realistically, none of us can control anything outside of ourselves. All we can do is control what's going on inside us. So it's a really, really interesting opposition, and it's one that's going to come back every couple of years. The next time it comes back is October 2026. So it's worth getting to grips with it, because every time it reappears whilst Pluto is in the sign of Aquarius, it's going to be in the 10th house and the 4th house. These are really important houses for you. So see what comes up as you come closer and closer to this new moon in Taurus. But I really think over this next 2 weeks, you're going to get very up close and personal with a really strong self-sabotage pattern that you'll be able to release and move from. Remember, those retrograde periods are over, and this Mars opposition to Pluto is coming to an end. And so it's time to move forwards. So I'm really excited for you, Taurus. I wonder how you're going to use this energy, but sending you so much love. Now, just before you go, obviously I've mentioned a little bit about the romance angle, the romance forecast. Similarly, I've mentioned a little bit about your career, because Pluto in this opposition is showing up at the top of the chart. Now, if you wanted something more specific about romance and about your career and ambition, then you might be interested in hearing about my membership. So I've got a membership that I host on School. It's school.com/feelgoodastrology. It's $22 a month, and you get 1 week's free trial with that. Every time I do one of these, or I release one of these new moon 2-week forecasts or a full moon 2-week forecasts, I also record 2 extra forecasts per sign, and they are the relationships and connections forecast and also the career and ambition forecast. So if you become a member, you'll get 2 of these every month on a new moon and a full moon, and also 2 of these every month. Moreover, if you're wanting to learn astrology or hang out with me a little bit and chat about astrology or ask me questions, I've got a community hangout once a month. In fact, in this last month, I've actually hung out 3 times. So there are sort of lots of changes going on. And if you've thought about getting a consultation or joining a course, I'm going to be teaching astrology from scratch very soon, or joining me for a webinar, then I've got discounts which could really make a difference if that's something that you've thought about. So yeah, there's lots going on with this. And if this sounds like something you'd like to go deeper into relationships and connections and career and ambition, then, just go to school.com/feelgoodastrology and sign up. It's really, really simple. It's 1 week free trial. And so you can always cancel if it's not for you. Last thought about that then, these forecasts I post, you'll see, like, for instance, here, I've got the Taurus one, the Leo one, the Virgo one. I've actually got it for every sign in the zodiac, and you can access it. So you can check out the forecasts for your families, for your friends. You can also, for instance, you've listened to Taurus. I don't know if that's your sun or your rising sign, but you can also listen to your sun sign and rising sign. You can also listen to your moon sign if you want to. The moon sign gives you more of an emotional forecast update. So that's there for you as a resource. But anyway, sending you loads and loads of love. I think this lead up time to the new moon in Taurus is an important one, because this is an important new moon for you, and I wish you so much love. So anyway, I'll catch you another time. Take care, and see you soon in another forecast. Bye for now.